So, what if I told you that there's a way to physically change your brain? A way to make it healthier, more complex, and more resilient? And it's something that over half the people on this planet already do. Today, we're going to dive into the incredible science behind the bilingual brain. Did you get that one? All right, maybe this one. Or how about this? Now, if you understood any of those questions and you're listening to this in English right now, well then, congratulations, you are officially part of the world's multilingual majority. And this is way more than just a cool party trick. It actually means your brain is physically different from someone who only speaks one language. But here's the really fascinating part. How it's different all depends on how you learned those languages. That's right. It turns out there's more than one way to be bilingual. So let's break down the three main types, and we'll use a family's story to make it super clear. Imagine a little girl, let's call her Gabriella. She moves to the US from Peru when she's just 2 years old. Gabriella is what we call a compound bilingual because she's so young, she's learning both English and Spanish at the exact same time, in the same home, in the same world. So for her, the words dog and perro aren't two separate ideas. They're just two different labels for the exact same furry, four-legged thing in her mind. She's building one unified concept system with two languages attached. Okay, but now check out her teenage brother. He's a whole different story. He's a coordinate bilingual. See, he learns English at school with his new friends, but he speaks Spanish at home with his family. And because he's learning these languages in two totally separate environments, his brain actually creates two separate sets of concepts. The English word home might bring up feelings about school and his life in the US, while the Spanish word casa is tied to family and memories of Peru. Two words, two slightly different worlds. And that brings us to Gabriella's parents. They're what we call subordinate bilinguals. Since they're learning English as adults, their brains have a different strategy. They learn by filtering everything through their native language, Spanish. So they basically think in Spanish first, and then they translate that thought into English. It's a completely different mental process. So we've got these different types of bilinguals, but what's actually going on inside their heads? I mean, on a neurological level. Well, thanks to modern brain imaging, we can finally peek under the hood and see how the bilingual brain is wired. You can kind of think of your brain as having two halves, each with its own specialty. The left hemisphere is like your inner analyst. It's all about logic, rules, and structure. The right hemisphere, that's your social director, handling emotion, tone, and social context. And here's the thing, real language needs both of them working together. This leads us right to something called the critical period hypothesis. You've probably heard that kids are like sponges when it comes to language, right? Well, this theory suggests it's because their brains are incredibly flexible, or plastic. They use both hemispheres pretty equally, soaking up not just the words and grammar, but all the emotional and social cues that come with them. But as we grow up, our brains get a little more efficient. For most adults, language processing tends to move house, consolidating mostly into one hemisphere. And usually, it's that logical left side. And this might just explain why learning a language as an adult can feel so different. Maybe a bit more like a math problem, and a little less like, well, just talking. Okay, so we've seen how the bilingual brain is wired differently, but these are more than just fun facts for a trivia night. They lead to some very real, very powerful benefits. This constant mental juggling is a workout for your brain, and this is where we get to the real payoff. But here's a crazy twist for you. We didn't always see it this way. In fact, before the 1960s, a lot of experts, basing their ideas on some pretty flawed studies, thought that being bilingual was actually a handicap that would slow a child's development. Can you believe that? Today, we know the exact opposite is true. What they saw as a weakness is actually one of the brain's greatest strengths. And listen, this brain workout idea isn't just a cute metaphor. We can actually see the physical results. Bilingual brains literally have a higher density of gray matter. That's the stuff that contains most of your brain's neurons and synapses. It's like having a more powerful, more interconnected processor humming away in your skull. But out of all the benefits, this next one might just be the most incredible. This lifelong brain workout builds up something called a cognitive reserve, and that reserve can help delay the onset of devastating diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia by as much as 5 years. Just let that sink in for a second. 5 extra years of healthy brain function. That's huge. So how does this work? Well, it all comes from strengthening your brain's command center, the boss, the CEO, a part called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex.
By constantly juggling two or more languages, you give your executive function a massive upgrade. That means you get better at problem solving, you're more nimble when switching between tasks, it's easier to stay focused, and, my personal favorite, you get really, really good at filtering out irrelevant noise and distractions.
So, here's the bottom line. Learning and using another language isn't just about adding a skill to your resume. It's a profound, lifelong workout for your mind. And truly, the best news of all, it is never too late to start getting in on these benefits. I think this quote really nails it. The goal isn't necessarily about being smarter in the traditional sense, like having a higher IQ. It's about building a brain that is healthier, more intricate, more flexible, and just more actively engaged with the world around you. And honestly, that sounds a whole lot better to me. So really, the question isn't if you should give your brain this amazing workout. The only question left is, what language are you going to choose? The benefits are waiting, your brain is ready. What's it going to be?